Hey everybody, this is Bradley with God's Country Hunting and Fishing, and I told you guys I'd be bringing a lot of videos to you, some of the stuff we do day to day. And one of the things that I do is taxidermy. I've been doing it since about 2003, and now I just do it for a hobby. And today I'm going to be mounting my nephew's bow kill, really nice bow kill. It's a mainframe 9 with a couple kickers here off of the brow on the left side. Really nice bow kill. So today I'm going to show you what I do from the time the hide's fleshed to the time that I've got the deer mounted and drying. And normally it takes me about 2.5 to 3 hours to go through that process, and I'm going to show you what all happens. So like I said, I've already got this hide is already fleshed out. You can tell it's fleshed out and clean. My next step, I'm going to wash the hide and prepare it for the mount. And I'm going to have to sew up, like this is where the arrow went through, so I have to sew these holes up and check the cape for everything else and get it ready to mount. What I use to wash them in is about 1.5 to 2 cups of borax or dry preserve, and about 1 cup to 1/2 cup of Lysol, just regular concentrate Lysol. As you can see, I have me a hanger above this sink that I can hang these hides on, and I'll change this water out, just cleaner water, and I'll change the water about twice, and I'll wash this hide in some clean water. So now that I've washed the cape, I'm gonna towel dry it, what I call towel dry. And I like to use you can use an old one or whatever. I like to use like a beach towel. And what I'll do, I'll lay this towel out. I'm gonna lay my hide on it, stretch it out. Now all I'm gonna do is just roll it up in that towel. So now I'm gonna unroll it. I've got a clean, fairly dry hide to work with. So what I want to do next is punch the holes in my cape for me to sew it up. And that's in the back of the neck where we made our cuts. We got what we call a Y cut back here. And you can see we're around the horns and where we made the Y cut incision, and then come down the back of the neck about 6 or 8 inches. And that's what we want. So I'm going to start punching these holes. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go from, if you can see this, I'm going to go from the back of the Y. This is it right here, the bottom end of the Y, all the way up to where it starts to Y. And I'm going to count that. And I'm going to make sure that I've got the same number of holes on each side. And then I'll do the other sections, each side of the Y the same way. These holes are about 1/2 inch apart, and that'll make it real easy to thread up when I get ready to sew up the back. Now, I've still got the upper Y section, which is this. And I'm going to start counting here. did right there is I went there's 7 on this side, and I go all the way to the base of the horn, and then I go one more over, and that one more over, if you can see that, that's what's going to tighten it up and keep it from opening up around the horns right there. With this one extra, that's going to tighten it up. So now that I have my holes punched in this cape, I'm ready to dry preserve it. And I get this dry preserve from a taxidermy supply place, and all I do is just rub it on. It's ready to go. Just rub a good coat on, kind of rub it into the hide. Show you a couple things as I go, like that right there. That's the lip. When we flesh this out, that extra skin on the inside, that's what tucks into the mannequin. So we have to have that extra lip to keep our mount looking good. And you can see the extra lip skin that's there. That's all fleshed out and ready to turn. Now I'm just shaking the excess off, all the loose dry preserve. That's it on the preserve. So what I'm going to show you is how I start my stitches and how I sew this up. This hole is probably one of the worst type because it's like a 4-blade broadhead, so it looks like a cross, but we're going to get it. So I'm going to enter right here on this side, and we'll shove that through. What I like to do, it's going to be hard for you to tell what I'm doing with this thread, but what I like to do is tie a basic slip knot here to start off with, and then I back it with a knot behind the slip knot so that won't come undone, and then I pull that slip knot tight and clip off the remaining, get rid of that, and then I cinch that knot down. Now that's the start of my sewing, and then I use what is called a baseball knot. Basically all it is I go in from the inside and go back and forth, enter on the other side from the inside of the cape. Just a little bit over from the last stitch. Come back through again. So you can see this was a 4-blade cut, so I had to sew up each side individually. Now I've got one long cut here to sew up. So I've got it all sewed up and tied off. That's what it looks like on the back side. Real quick on these ears, I'm gonna fill these ears with bondo. So right here on the tip of the ear, what I like to do is take this needle right here on the end and poke a hole in it. What that allows is the air to come out. When I press all the bondo into it, the air will come right out the end of it. It won't hold any air in there. So what I got here is regular automotive bondo. So I'm going to put my hardener in. I don't want to put too much because I don't want this turning too fast on me. I can always add a little more if I need it. I'm going to take a tongue depressor and stir this hardener in real quick. Scrape all that bondo off the bottom to get it stirred in good. Now it's stirred in, I like to always make me two halves. That way I've got one half for one ear, one half for the other. Special tool I said before. Now I'll just pull that in real quick like that. Stick my ear on there, on my form, kind of press it all out even, get it nice and even, and shape that ear like I want it. Okay, so now my cape's ready to mount, and you can see the ears turned out good, they're ready to go, and I'm going to get my horns ready. I like to just drill a 1/4 inch is fine. It doesn't have to be too big. Drywall screw, but what I like to do after I drill my hole is countersink it so that the drywall screw head kind of goes down in flush. So all this is just a countersink bit. I like to clean the eye socket out just a little bit. I take a Dremel tool with just a regular drill bit, and of course clean out the tear ducts, and same thing with the Dremel, and then route out the nose with the Dremel, and then the mouth. And in the corner of the mouth, you can tell right here, what I like to do is wallow this out just a little bit, because there's more skin to tuck in the corner than there is the rest of the mouth. And then of course I take a rasp and rasp down and get all the rough edges off of like right in here, right there was some that come out of the mouth. Okay, so I'm going to mix my bondo for the horns. what I want to do, I'm checking this bondo. Just as it goes to trying to harden, I want to set these horns on there and get that base plate set right. If I set it too early, it'll just squish out all the bondo on the sides. Set our eyes and do all of our clay work. What I use is about half and half regular potter's clay and ear base. The ear base has some paper mache type material in it and kind of helps it hold together a little bit better. And I'll show you what all we're going to do there. And what I'll do next is I'm going to take a little bit of clay. I'm just going to roll it up in my hands. Roll it up, make a, kind of like you would Play-Doh. And I'm going to trim these eyes out. What I've just got some water, and I just dip my fingers in the water, and that'll smooth that clay out. The voids around my antlers, around my base and my antlers, the base of the antlers, and just going to take some of this clay and work this clay into these voided areas right here. Do one more thing with clay right here. I want to put a ring around the base. And what that's going to do is when I draw my hide in here, this will help that hide not pull away from the antlers. I want to put me a big ball of this ear base and clay into the base of the ears and make both sides about the same size wise and stuff them in there. Okay, so for hide paste I use a 2-part epoxy. It's called Headlock, and just mix it equal parts. I use a paper plates and the tongue depressors to mix it with. Now I'm going to sew up one side over here. So in sewing this side up, what I'm going to do is just sew up one side of the Y, and then I'll meet it with the other side, and then I'll take both of them and go down all the way up these threads. This is the regular baseball stitch. One more thing right here is if you don't have enough ear base behind these ears, now's the time to put it in, because you won't put it in there later. So I'm going to check that real quick. We'll add just a little bit more ear base. Not much, just a little bit. Right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing it up. Okay, so right here, I'm just going to show you how we're tucking these lips in. And we're going to use some T-pins to pin them in place, hold them in place until we do our epoxy work. So right now, I tuck the bottom one in first, then tuck the top one in on top of it. Make sure everything's centered up right here. Alright, stop. So now I've got my T-pins, and I'm just going to push these T-pins in right here, and I got this little screwdriver here. Makes it real handy to just push in on those T-pins and push them in just out of sight, and they'll be good. You'll be able to see them once it dries. You can take them back out. So I'm just going to put one right after the other all the way around, tucking this in there. That's going to hold the skin and all in place while it dries. So next, I'm going to do the nose. And what I want to do is just tuck all that in like so. Now you can see it go to shaping up right there. And I'll pin all this in place right quick. So I always start, just as reference, right here on the bottom, on the corner, and just work my way right around. So right here I've got a pin in the corner of the eye. This one I'm going to go right in the edge of where this tear duct was on the mannequin. I'm going to press that pin in. I'm going to go to tuck in that extra eyelid in, and this back one, I want to put this one just a little higher than this one, because if you put it low, to me the eye just don't look right. And I'll show you why it's important to put that one high. Because the third pin, I always put, like, here's the end of the eyelashes right here. I always come right in here with a third pin and push that one up a little bit at an angle. And what that does is when I form this eyelid, it holds that up. So, and if you got too much clay in here, you can work this clay back a little bit if you want to. But right here, that's really gonna go to looking like I want it, because where I push this upper pin in right here, it holds that corner tucked in right there. And I'll work on this some more as I get the rest of these pins in, but I've got to fix this tear duct real quick. So what I'm going to do on this tear duct is I'm going to press it in. I made that hole pretty deep in there, and I'm going to put one pin right in the lower end of that hole. Press that in. And then I've got these pieces I made, and what they do is just a piece of welding rod that I made. It's gonna hold this tear duct in the corner of this eye like I want it by pressing this in right there. I'm gonna leave it right there while this all dries. I'll go ahead and put another pin right behind that, so I've got 2 pins in the tear duct itself. Now there's epoxy in there, and once that dries, it'll stay there. That's not gonna come untucked. Now, underneath here, I wanna have some clay up here so this eye doesn't open up on me or end up having a gap. But I'm just gonna tuck all this eyelid in there, and you can see there's just some of this is dirt. It'll clean off. It's from the clay, but we can clean it off with a Q-tip later. So next, after I've got my eye finished, I like to set this ear base, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull it right in here. I'm going to pull this ear in here and form it even with the other side, and I like to make a crease right there because there's a natural crease right here in the base of a deer's ear. And I want to press that in a little bit so that clay kind of pops a little bit right there. And then once I get it about where it's going, I'm going to take a welding rod, and I'm just going to, I want this ear to come just forward, just a little bit more, right about there. And it's even with the other one. I'm going to go through the base of the ear, just shove that in and go into the mannequin. Now I can move this welding rod if I want this ear moved, but right now it's pretty close to, I like to go ahead and brush the hair straight before the welding rod lays on it, because you can't move that hair once this all dries. So now where we're at, everything on the head's done, and I just want to make one final push to push any air out. And because we've got that hide paste, once we push this air out, that'll hold that hide down to that mannequin, and it'll start showing some of the detail in this mannequin. So right here you can see the air bubbles pushing out of it as I'm pushing, and I'm just pushing in those grooves in that mannequin. You can see the grooves starting to pop a little bit now. Okay, so I've put my hide paste on the lower end. I'm just going to start mounting this. I'm just going to let you see. It's starting to look like a deer now, so this is when it goes to getting exciting. You can see I'm using that awl again, pulling that hide so I don't pull any hair out of it. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how I pull my muscle tone out of these mannequins. I use foam. On this one, there's a crease right here in the neck. This is muscle tone in the mannequin. I'm gonna push all the air out of that, and then I'm gonna pin this one right here. So now I'm just gonna staple the hide around behind the mannequin. There's plywood backing back here, and I just use a crown staple. It's fast and it works. I'll stretch this hide tight as I go. Now this stand I made that holds my mannequins on it pivots. I can loosen these set screws up, and it allows me to flip this over. Works real good when I get ready to go to stapling all of this down to make sure that all this is even and sitting where I want it. Gives me a real good look when I flip it upside down like that. So now I've got all this loose hide, and I'll just take and trim all that off right up against to the staples. Okay, so here a deer head is finished mounted, drying. It's gonna take about 2 or 3 weeks before it's ready to finish with the epoxy work and painting. So that's it for now. God's country hunting and fishing, keeping it real.